Hi, I'm Jessica. Today I'm going to teach you about the three different types of sentences. If you didn't know, we have three of them: simple, compound, and complex. We also have what's called compound complex. So I'm going to teach you about all these different types of sentences because they're really important to know. We use them in speaking and in writing, and you want sentence variety, meaning you want to use different types of sentences to express what you want to say or express what you want to write. Let's get started. So I'm going to go over the different types of sentences today: simple, compound, and complex. This video is useful for all levels, so everyone can benefit from it. Let's talk about clauses first. If you don't know, a clause is a group of words with a subject and a verb. There are two types of clauses: the independent clause, which you're going to hear me say a lot, IC, for independent clause, dependent clause, and I call that one DC, for dependent clause. An independent clause, or IC, would be a complete sentence. This has a subject, verb, and complete thought. It can stand alone. Think of yourself. If you are independent, you don't need help from anybody else. You can survive on your own. That's just like an independent clause. It can be by itself. It can stand alone. For example, I am happy. This would be an independent clause, also known as a complete sentence. In contrast, a dependent clause, or DC, cannot stand alone. It must be connected to an independent clause to make it complete. For example, whenever I see my dog. This is a dependent clause. It's not a complete sentence. You can't just say, whenever I see my dog. What happens whenever you see your dog? So you need to connect it to an independent clause to make it complete. You could say, whenever I see my dog, comma, I get excited. Then you would have a complete sentence. Let's practice with clauses. If you see, I'm giving you 5 different clauses. They can be either an IC or DC, independent clause or dependent clause. Remember, if it's a complete sentence, it's an independent clause. I will read each one and then give you a few seconds to guess what it is. Okay, number 1, after I leave. Is this an independent clause or a dependent clause? You should have said DC. After I leave is a dependent clause. It's not a complete sentence. What about number 2? The fish is tasty. You should have said I see. This is a complete sentence. Number 3, she is taking a vacation. You should have said I see. This is also a complete sentence. She is the subject, is taking is the verb. Number 4, because Sarah is exhausted. This is a dependent clause. It's not a complete sentence. It needs to be connected to an IC to complete it. And the last one, number 5, let's follow the trail. Is this IC or DC? You should have said IC. This is also a complete sentence. So numbers 2, 3, and 5 are complete sentences. And then numbers 1 and 4 are not complete sentences. Those are dependent clauses. And the reason we're going over independent clauses and dependent clauses is because you need to know these for when you are writing some of the different types of sentences. Let's talk about types of sentences. We have simple, compound, complex, and like I mentioned before, we also have what's called compound complex. The compound complex sentence is a compound sentence with a dependent clause or subordinate clause. Let's start with simple sentences. This is your most basic sentence. I'm sure you know how to write a simple sentence. A simple sentence contains just one independent clause. For example, Jessica is my writing teacher. I am married. We are learning English. Andrea hasn't visited Japan yet. Do you know his name? So the last one's a question. You can also have questions be a simple sentence. The next type of sentence is a compound sentence. The compound sentence combines two independent clauses with a coordinating conjunction. Do you know your coordinating conjunctions? If you don't, that's okay. I'm going to tell you right now. One of the easiest ways to remember your coordinating conjunctions is using the acronym FANBOYS, F-A-N-B-O-Y-S, FANBOYS. The F stands for for, A, and, N, nor, B, but, O, or, Y, yet. And do you know what the last one stands for? So, these are all of your coordinating conjunctions. When you use a coordinating conjunction to connect two independent clauses, you need to use a comma. For example, Matt likes tea, comma, but he doesn't like coffee. In this example, Matt likes tea would be your first independent clause or complete sentence. But is your coordinating conjunction. We're using this to join the two independent clauses together. He doesn't like coffee. This would be the second independent clause. Matt likes tea. He doesn't like coffee. These are two complete sentences. We're using but to join them. If you just write Matt likes tea, period, that's a simple sentence. But if you want to make it a higher level sentence, then you can make it a compound sentence by just adding the comma and using but to join them. Okay, I'm going to give you a bunch of examples to help you see how to use these coordinating conjunctions. The first one, for. I was late, for I missed the bus. You probably know for as a preposition, like this box or this present is for you. It's not that same for. Here we use for to mean because. This is not commonly used, so don't use it in speaking. We just use it for formal writing. It's much more common to just use because. Stella goes hiking once a month and she swims every week. You probably know how to use and. It's very common. Mike doesn't like cookies, nor does he like cake. Nor is only used for negative sentences, and this is the one my students tend to find the most challenging. If you look at the first sentence, Mike doesn't like cookies. Doesn't is negative. We're using here does. What you're going to do is you will continue it over to the second half of the sentence. So doesn't is the negative. You're going to use does again. So Mike doesn't like cookies, nor does he like cake. So nor here makes the second part of the sentence, nor does he like cake, negative. So it would be the same as saying he doesn't like cake. Another example for nor would be, he doesn't know how to ride a bike, nor does he know how to swim. Next conjunction, but. I love cheese, but I can't eat it. But is used to show opposites. We will watch a movie this weekend, or we will go to the beach. This is showing between this or that for preference or two options. Paul studied for the math test, yet he got a low score on it. Yet here means but. This is another one that's only used in formal writing. If we want to use but, we will just use but, instead of yet. So for your coordinating conjunctions, we don't use yet or for unless you're using them for formal writing. So keep that in mind. Here is a reminder of what each coordinating conjunction means. For equals because. Remember, only use it in formal writing. And is in addition to, like plus. Nor means and not. This is for negative statements. But shows contrast. You can think of it like however. Or is either, connects two different possibilities. Yet is the same as but if you use yet, remember we normally only use it in formal writing. And so is to show result. You might be asking, Jessica, can I use two coordinating conjunctions in a sentence? Yes, you can. You can use more than one. For example, I want to buy a new car, but I don't have enough money, so I got a second job. If you see, we use but and so in the same sentence. That's fine. I wouldn't use more than 2 though. I would max out at 2. So I want to buy a new car, but I don't have enough money, so I got a second job. If you want to try and write a compound sentence with 2 coordinating conjunctions, go ahead. You can write it and put it in the comments section below, and I'll check it and see how you did. For compound sentences, you can use a coordinating conjunction or a semicolon. This is what a semicolon looks like. Semicolons are used to join 2 related ideas. For example, I'm looking forward to meeting your husband. I've heard a lot of great things about him. So we can use the semicolon to connect these 2 sentences. Okay, let's move on to the last sentence type, complex sentences. So this type of sentence combines an independent clause with at least one dependent clause. Subordinating conjunctions are used. So you learned coordinating conjunctions earlier, like FANBOYS. This is going to be different. These ones are what we call subordinating conjunctions. And on this page, I'm giving you a lot of them. Let me show you how to use subordinating conjunctions correctly and make complex sentences. If you look at this first sentence, although Fatima got a promotion, she wasn't happy. Although is a subordinating conjunction. Anytime you use although, it automatically makes it a dependent clause. Although Fatima got a promotion. This is not a complete sentence, it's a dependent clause. However, if you were to delete although and you just said Fatima got a promotion, then that would be an independent clause or a complete sentence. But like I said, when you use although, it automatically changes it to a dependent clause. So if you say although Fatima got a promotion, you would need to connect it to an independent clause. So here we have although Fatima got a promotion, that's a dependent clause, and we are connecting it to she wasn't happy, surprisingly. This is an independent clause, she wasn't happy. So you're going to combine a dependent clause with an independent clause to make a complex sentence. You can move the dependent clause to the end of the sentence and then the independent clause first. So I can say Fatima wasn't happy although she got a promotion. Both of these sentences have the same meaning. If you put the dependent clause at the end, although she got a promotion, then no comma. If you see right here, you don't need a comma if you put the dependent clause last. You only put a comma at the beginning. Let me show you one more example. You probably know how to use because. This is one of the most frequently used subordinating conjunctions. Rachel is studying English because she wants to get a better job. One of the most common errors I see is a comma right here before because. But remember, you don't need a comma if the dependent clause comes last. So here, because she wants to get a better job, is a dependent clause, so you don't need this comma here. No comma. Because Rachel wants to get a better job, comma, she is studying English. So if the dependent clause is at the beginning of the sentence before the independent clause, put the comma. If it is like here and also here in these examples, at the end, no comma. Do you get it? Let's practice and see if you can identify what is a simple sentence, a compound sentence, and a complex sentence. Go ahead, take a couple minutes and read the sentences and choose simple, compound, or complex. So you should pause the video right now so that way you can take your time, read through the examples, and write down simple, compound, or complex. When you're ready, push play for me to go over the answers with you. Okay, let's go over the answers. If you're not ready, remember, click pause on the video, and whenever you are ready, then you can check with me. The first sentence, Maria and Vanessa played soccer. What type of sentence is this? You should have said simple. Don't get confused by the word and. We are not combining 2 independent clauses here. We're just combining 2 words, Maria and Vanessa, so this is just a simple sentence. Number 2, Hien is driving to LAX. If you don't know LAX, that stands for Los Angeles International Airport. You should have said simple. This is also just a basic simple sentence. Number 3, whenever Hien drives to the airport, she sits in a lot of traffic. You should have said complex. Remember, whenever is a subordinating conjunction. Whenever Hien drives to the airport is going to be a dependent clause. And then she sits in a lot of traffic is an independent clause. So those two combined together make up a complex sentence. Number 4, I will go to the beach or I will play tennis. You should have said compound, right? I will go to the beach or coordinating conjunction, I will play tennis. Number 5, Stan didn't do his homework, nor did he clean his room. This is also a compound sentence. Number 6, because I only got 4 hours of sleep last night, I fell asleep in class. If you said complex sentence, you're right. And the last one, Pedro rode his bike and listened to music. This one's a simple sentence. And I'm sure some of you put compound sentence. I want to challenge you and see what you would put, because if you look at Pedro rode his bike and listened to music, we don't have he in there. So Pedro rode his bike and listened to music, he's doing two things. But if you said Pedro rode his bike, comma, and he listened to music, if you said that, then it would have been a compound sentence, because then we would have had he listened to music as one independent clause and Pedro rode his bike as another independent clause. But since we didn't repeat the subject, then you just have a simple sentence. Lastly, we're going to talk about compound complex sentences. So it's just like it sounds. It's a compound sentence with a dependent clause. Complex sentences have dependent clauses. So you can take a compound sentence, add a dependent clause, and then it's a compound complex sentence. Let me give you a couple examples. When Hugo grows up, he wants to be a politician, but his mother doesn't approve. If you see he wants to be a politician, but his mother doesn't approve, this would be the compound sentence. When we add, when Hugo grows up, this is going to be the dependent clause. So by adding this, sorry, you can't see the comma there. There you go. By adding this, now we have a compound complex sentence. Another example, I love cheese, but I can't eat it. This is your compound sentence, because I'm allergic to milk. So here would be your dependent clause added onto the compound sentence. I love cheese, but I can't eat it because I'm allergic to milk. So that would be a compound complex sentence. Let me give you some advice. Now that you know all the different types of sentences you can use, don't only use complex sentences. Some people might think, oh, complex sentences are high for my TOEFL test or IELTS, or when writing an essay or talking to people, I'm just going to use all complex sentences. You don't want to do that, because we don't talk or write only in complex sentences. We use all different types of sentences. So you want to use simple, compound, complex, and compound complex. You want to utilize all the different types and have sentence variety. So let me show you how you can have sentence variety. Someone might ask me, what is your favorite movie? And maybe I'll respond with, I love movies, but I can't pick only one as my favorite. In the Mood for Love, which was directed by Wong Kar-wai, is one of my favorites. It is a foreign film from Hong Kong. I love it because of the acting, cinematography, and music. When I watch it, I get sucked in. If you don't know what the phrasal verb suck in means, it's to interest or intrigue someone so as to fully engage them in something. So if you get sucked in, it's taking all of your attention. Okay, let me show you the different sentences I use. I love movies, but I can't pick only one as my favorite. This is a compound sentence. In the Mood for Love, which was directed by Wong Kar-wai, is one of my favorites. That's a complex sentence, and so is the last one. I love it because of the acting, cinematography, and music. When I watch it, I get sucked in. So the last two sentences are also complex sentences. When I watch it, that's a dependent clause because this will be the this will be the subordinating conjunction followed by the dependent clause because of the acting, cinematography, and music. The green sentence, it is a foreign film from Hong Kong, is a simple sentence. So if you see, I have sentence variety. I'm using all different types of sentences, and that's what you want to do too. Thanks for joining me today. I hope it's clear how to use the different types of sentences. And remember, you want to practice. When you learn something new, you need to practice it so you can see if you understand it and for you to get good at it. So go ahead and write some sentences, simple, compound, complex, or compound, complex, and put them in the comments section so I can read them and give you feedback on your sentences. Okay, take care. Have a nice day. I'll see you next time.